So last week we were looking we're in session 5, and we were looking at how to remedy we're looking at our biased attitude a little bit. We did some meditation. So I want to again review those meditations because I think everybody here enjoys meditating. And there's Hin. Hi. And then we're also going to look at how to remedy our biased attitude. And then if we have time, we'll look a little bit at how to take it into a daily practice. And then maybe there is some review questions. So we can think about that. But I think let's just get started so we can get through everything. Although we do have an hour and a half. But somehow it always seems to go really fast. I don't know. Anyway, it's very lovely to see you all. Hi, Hin. Thank you for coming. Nice to see you. All right. So let's just start by settling into our meditation posture. And, I think it looks like everyone here is sitting at a chair. Is anyone sitting cross-legged? No, I don't think so. You are sitting cross-legged. Yay. Okay. So for Shayla, really make sure you're sitting on your sits bones. So, and if your hips are a little bit tight, you can put a couple of cushions underneath each knee because you will be sitting there for a while. And then, I know we are going to be sitting here for a while. The suggestion is not to lean against the surface that you're up against. So try not to lean against that lovely wall that's behind you as much as possible. We just want to try and use our own muscles to hold ourselves up. But feel your feet on the floor. I'm wondering if anybody brought a tennis ball with them today. If you didn't, no worries. You guys did. Yay. I have to go get mine now. Just 1 second. Hang on. Okay. So if you don't have a tennis ball, don't worry about it. Mary has a foot roller. So, we've been focusing on our feet this week in yoga. So, of course, I'm all about the feet. But you can start by just rolling that ball backwards and forwards over your right foot, starting from the toes. Then when you get to the ball mound and pinky mound, just kind of go in there. Might be a little crunchy. Then you can go down the outside of the foot, then the inside of the foot. And I think Mary's getting her feet tickled by those pokey things. No. And then you can just roll the ball around on the heel of the foot and then just kind of go backwards and forwards and just kind of massage the balls of the feet. We're on our feet most of the time. Okay. So it's really good to just wake the feet up a little bit. And, the feet are integral to how well we balance. I mean, it might sound kind of obvious, but until you have some kind of injury in your foot, you don't realize how reliant you are on your feet. So, okay, then move to yeah, exactly. He knows all about that. Right. When I was coming, so just roll the ball around your left foot. So the toe pads, you can maybe just crunch your toes around the ball as if you're trying to pick it up with your toes. Like that. And when you do that, you'll notice that it kind of engages the arch, strengthens the arch a bit. Then ball mound, pinky mound, and then the outside of the arch and the inside of the arch, and then the heels of the foot. So when I was coming back from Hawaii last time in December, of course, I was, hi, Margaret, I was dressed in civvies, and I had these pants that were had a little bit of a flare at the bottom. Of course, I'm not used to wearing pants. I got my toe caught in the pants and I fell forward. But in order to stop myself from falling forward, I think I damaged for quite some time I was limping around, and it was just one little toe that wasn't quite working properly. And the whole of my body was affected by this just one little injury, Okay, so that's enough. So now our feet are woken up. So now if you have, apart from Shayla, if you have your feet flat on the floor, and take a nice deep breath as we move inwards. So last week, as I said, we were looking at how our attitudes are a little bit biased. This week, we're going to try and remedy some of that, or just shine a light on that, and how can we sort of remedy it. And it's not going to be something that we're going to be able to do overnight. A lot of it's really ingrained into us socially, economically, the way our culture, the way this country is structured, the way many of our countries are structured, starting from the days of colonialism. So feel the feet flat on the floor. And then feel the weight of the legs in the ankles, in the feet, in your sits bones. Be sitting on top of that. The shoulders aligned with the hips. And imagine your spine is a string of pearls of light, stretching from the base all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. And really lengthen your spine. And you can have your hands just very comfortably sitting on your lap. And just notice the sensation of the air, the physical sensations of the air as you're inhaling and exhaling. It's a little bit cooler as you inhale, slightly warmer as you exhale. If there are any sounds in your environment, just allow those sounds to be there. Try not to follow them with the mind. And then just notice what thoughts are arising in your mind. And you can label them as we have been doing. You can actually, it could be as simple as I'm a thinking. Maybe you have a jealous thought arising. Just recognize it. Don't judge yourself or the thought. or thinking that it should be any different. It's just what's there. So just rejoice they're actually seeing it. You might be having thoughts that are involved with stories that aren't necessarily true, projections. You could be having planning thoughts. And then let's just put ourselves on the bank of our river. This is Mingyur Rinpoche's analogy. And notice the quality of the water. Is it swift flowing, fast flowing? Is the water clear? Can you see the bottom? Can you see fish in there, or is it a bunch of debris? What does the bank of the river look like? Maybe your river is more of a canal, man-made, or is it in nature? But just realize that while you're sitting on that bank, nice and dry, you're free from the river. So we're going to come back to this meditation on equanimity and impermanence, but we will just very quickly bring to mind the people of your life, the loved ones, the ones you don't like so much, and your strangers, and keep in mind that these relationships can change place at any time. And then just keep in mind that all of these people of our life, all the sentient beings around us, they're all equal to us. They're all the same. Sometimes we have this sneaky thought that we might be better than others, or maybe not as good as others because of certain external characteristics or situations. But actually, when it comes down to it, we are all the same. We're all equal. From a very basic viewpoint of wishing to be happy and not really ever being able to find true satisfaction and happiness, and wishing to be free from suffering and constantly running into problems. So I think we'll do this meditation, this series of meditations this evening, this session 5, for all these people of our life, and by extension, all sentient beings. So tonight we're going to look at what it would be like to consider the other side of the spectrum of ignorance, attachment, and this kind of emotional roller coaster that we find ourselves on when we're engaging in these kinds of delusions, aversion. And it's interesting to contemplate what life might be like with a mind of equanimity. Aversion, attachment, and ignorance. With these kinds of things, we tend to box people and situations and categorize them. And I think we do that because we need to kind of put it somewhere. We need to handle things. There are only a few possibilities provided by the minds of aversion, attachment, and ignorance of where people and situations fit. And the very subtle nuances of human beings, their hearts, their situations, their own lives, their own loves, their own problems. It all gets kind of lost in our projections and our delusions. So when we closed-minded, this is an inevitable result of the filters on our minds placed by aversion, attachment, and ignorance. So think about what it would be like to remove those filters and seeing things as if the first time without having to categorize them immediately, meeting a person and not having to somehow slot them into friend, enemy, or stranger, but meeting them where they're at, on their own terms, without judgment, as we ourselves want to be met. You know, we're complex individuals, our situations are complex. Many human beings are often involved, and think for a moment about being able to leave the mind clear and open and observant, without bias, without judgment, without prejudgments, without immediate reactions of aversion, anger, or attachment, or desire, or the dismissive ignorance, indifference. How different would our experiences of life be if we could slowly turn down the strength of these kind of what they call the three poisonous minds, and turn up the strength of equanimity and openness. As long as we are under the influence of aversion, attachment, and ignorance, our minds are painted one color or another. We see through colored glasses, whereas the mind of equanimity is clean and open. As if we've taken all those colored glasses off, the filters have been removed. And this constant dance and moving of pushing away or pulling towards, grasping at, stops. We're not pushing, we're not pulling. We just let go, we just observe. And we're still. Our mind is still, our hearts are still. And we look and we see clearly with openness, whatever the person might be, whatever the situation might be. So see if you can compare what it's like to be controlled by aversion, attachment, and ignorance on the one hand, and what it would be like to approach life with equanimity on the other. What benefits do you think equanimity might bring? So maybe later, maybe we can actually just do it now for a minute. Sit down, and we're all sitting, and just think about this. Even maybe you can make a little list in your head. And just think, what are the benefits of equanimity? And what that quality seeks to overcome. And what were the disadvantages of aversion or attachment or grasping or categorizing? And maybe you have a situation right now where there is aversion arising. And sometimes it's almost as if, well, to let that aversion go, I'm almost kind of betraying my own viewpoint. But how would it be as if you could just open your mind, open your heart, and try and speak to the good qualities of that person? Doesn't mean to say they need to be your best friend. But the truth is, when it comes down to it, The person it really affects is you. If you're running around with all this aversion in your heart, it affects you physically, it affects you mentally, it might affect your sleep. But if you can just relax and not hang on to these really strong opinions that we have, or grasping onto how this is not fair, that person was so rude to me, how dare. I know it's hard, it's really hard. Actually, our life is a lot happier. We can just let it all go. And again, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be cautious. It doesn't mean you have to invite dangerous people into your house for dinner. It doesn't mean you have to stop and talk to every single person in the street that might be wanting to rip you off or rob you or whatever. But you might find if you're walking around without hate in your heart, you are less likely to run into these kinds of people. Perhaps. So we're going to start today with this body of light meditation. So settle your mind. Again, go inside to this place of stillness. And see if you can generate a motivation that goes beyond yourself, beyond your own individual well-being, and takes into account also the welfare and peace of the world and those people who are living in it. Perhaps we can cultivate a motivation realistically on the basis of the benefits that you wish to accrue from meditating. Maybe developing your own mind, becoming kinder, wiser, and remembering the effects that those personal improvements may have on the lives of the others that you touch. So just for a moment, we can cultivate our own positive motivation within our own minds, with our own words. So now visualize or imagine in the space above the crown of your head a sphere of white light, pure, translucent. It's very bright and radiant and somewhat smaller than the size of your head. So just concentrate on feeling the presence of that light. And don't worry if it doesn't appear clearly. It's just enough to know it's there. So let's just focus on this for a minute. Contemplate that this sphere of light represents all the universal goodness and love and wisdom, and that this sphere of light represents the fulfillment of our highest potential. All of our good qualities are embodied by this ball of light. Now imagine this light gradually decreases until it becomes a small, bright sphere about 1 inch, a couple of centimeters in diameter. It's very small, very intense and very bright. And this tiny ball of pure white light descends, melts into you through the crown of your head, down through your body to your heart center, right in the middle of your chest. And just imagine it there for a moment and feel the presence of the universal love and goodness and wisdom right at your heart. And as you focus on this ball of light, it very gently and slowly begins to expand, slowly spreading out until that light fills your entire body. As it spreads, all the solid parts of your body dissolve and themselves become light. Your organs, your bones, your blood vessels, your flesh, your skin, all become pure, radiant white light. And concentrate on this experience of your body as pure white light. Even the hair on your body, your arms, your legs, the hair on your head, all becomes light. And you can think that all your problems, all your negativities, faults, hindrances, physical and mental suffering of all kinds have completely vanished, dissolving into white light. And imagine, really believe that you yourself have reached a state of wholeness and perfection. Imagine this and feel great joy and serenity. Concentrate on your body as a body of light, radiant, blissful, light, and transparent. If any thought or distracting object arises, if anything appears in your mind, just also be aware of it. Be aware not to be following down a track of thoughts. And just dissolve it all into white light. We can concentrate like this for a few minutes. Now, very slowly and gently relax your concentration. And as you bring this particular meditation to a close and re-enter the group, don't think that somehow this experience has been limited to this short meditation time, that your experience of wholeness will now stop because the meditation is coming to a close. So take as much as possible this experience with you out of your meditation and into your daily activities. And just remember that this wholeness, this perfection is your true nature, not a fleeting imaginary experience. Well, I'm wondering if anyone has any questions, if there's anything you would like to share or something you'd like to ask. No? Susan, are you writing something down? Do you have a question?
Yes. No, I don't have a question. I just thought it was such a beautiful meditation. I jotted it down so that I remember.
Oh, okay. So we sometimes do this one in the morning as well. But I think with all of our meditations, if you have a moment of peace or stillness, remember that it's not just something that was generated in the meditation. It's something you can take with you always and bring it through into your life. But it does take a bit of practice. I see, I'm doing this. Some of you maybe, anyone doing the Tai Chi training with that teacher? So I'm learning Tai Chi Cho, which is a different form. He's teaching Tai Chi Chuan. And I do notice with my Tai Chi Cho teachers, there's a stillness within them that they're carrying around through doing this practice. And one of my teachers has been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And you can really see the energy that she carries around with her. It's kind of extraordinary. So it's possible, with a bit of training. I'm not saying it's going to take 30 years, but it is there within us all the time. And it's not something that we have to look for. Oh, not the Santa Fe. It's only in person. What a shame. Oh, okay. Well, when I've got my teacher training, maybe we can do it together. Different form on Zoom. And I'm not qualified yet, so I won't be doing that just yet, but we can learn. It's a different form, actually. What happened was that Justin Stone was in Albuquerque, and he was a university professor, and he was a Tai Chi Chuan practitioner. I had a Chinese, I think, teacher, and he started teaching Tai Chi Chuan to his students. And, they came for the first session and then not the second or the third, just sort of getting less and less. And what he realized was that there was just too much. It was too complicated and people just didn't want. So then he asked his teacher, could he simplify it? And, then he discovered that, and I think he worked with his teacher to simplify. And then he found that more people were likely to come. So this particular practice I'm doing has 19 movements and one posture. It's a lot simpler, but takes half an hour. So anyway, and it's very, very, very sweet. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to where we were. So an analysis, we've done a little bit of analysis in our morning meditations, analytical meditation, and it's sort of an opportunity to, in some kind of quiet moment in your life, to reflect on what's happened in your life during that day, how you responded, the situations you've experienced, and try and bring a little bit of wisdom to those situations, almost like you're being your very close and dear best friend, sort of like your own wise mother, your own best friend. So we're going to do next a meditation on equanimity. And this is, here we're using analytical meditation to counter some negative patterns. So it's another example of analytical meditation. And so we're going to bring to bear within this meditation some of the skills we've learned: mindfulness, an awareness of obstacles as they arise, and applying counter agents like dissolving them into white light, which is what we've just done. Concentration. And all these elements play a part as we engage in analytical meditation. But analytical meditation isn't really, it's not just a process of meditatively sitting still. Your mind is active. You're contemplating, but it's focused. So you're contemplating a topic and directing that contemplation towards a particular positive conclusion. But analytical meditation isn't also something you do by rote. So you want to bring your own experiences into your meditation and bring your own doubts, your own fears, your own difficulties into your meditation and use that focused opportunity to address them. So if you're meditating on equanimity and you have thoughts that have arisen in your life that day about equanimity and that cast doubts on its benefit, then your equanimity meditation is just the place to raise those doubts, to challenge them, and to allow your doubts to challenge your meditation structure as well. And generally, most of these meditations will stand up to our doubt. But if we bring any doubt into the open and confront it and debate it and discuss it, then our understanding of our meditations becomes deeper. And if that's a difficult process for you, this kind of conversation, internal conversation in meditation, you can journal it. And in a way, journaling is a form of meditation. And if that's easier for you than just sitting still and thinking, because maybe your mind's a little bit all over the place, then you can do that as well. And analytical meditation is also an opportunity in a quiet moment during the day to reflect on what's happened in your life during the day, as I said earlier. So, for example, maybe you have a friend who's got a strong problem with anger or a strong problem with attachment. And maybe that person tended to say hurtful things without a great deal of control, just like blah. But this kind of state of mind can make us unhappy and miserable. And it's like sometimes it's just an old habit. And one of our, one kind of way of dealing with this is to say, for example, if you're wanting to say some harsh words, or even write some harsh words in an email, or just flash back a text, have enough discipline to wait until your mind is no longer filled with angry chemicals and you're sort of seeing reason. Sit on your meditation cushion perhaps, and maybe think about how those words are going to land on the person you're writing to. Doesn't matter how justified you are in saying them. Because once they are out of the mouth, you can't bring them back. You can apologize, but those words will still be rocking around that person's mind and heart. So if we can take a step back, give ourselves some space in between our thoughts, in between our reactions, we'll calm everything down. Make us happier, make other people happier as well. So there's something to do so simple. Next time you want to kind of write some sarcasm, write a response, a reaction. Take a step back from it. Next time you have a desire to eat an extra piece of chocolate that you didn't really need, maybe put a bit of time in between the thought to eat that chocolate and actually doing so. You'll find over the time things will start to shift. And you probably started to notice that during our Vajrasattva meditations in the evening. So in an analytical meditation, we're using the meditation to change our minds for the better, to try and overcome negative inner patterns, and enabling us to wake up to the reality of them, to be really conscious of what we're doing, to be conscious, super conscious of the words that come out of our mouth. And this actually gives us freedom to make choices. We can choose what we want to say and what we don't want to say. So we're not driven. I don't know if any of you have watched any of these. There's this kind of television series from England called Vera. She's like this kind of little rotund lady, and she's a detective. And she always seems to solve whatever murder happens to have been committed. They seem to love murders in England. But what is always so sad at the very end of every single episode is that it was not necessary. And that there's always such regret and sadness in the heart of the person that did it. So we have a choice. As long as we're in control, we have a choice. So there's different kinds of practices that we've been looking at in this course. And I know some of you weren't in the first part earlier in the year. We looked at concentration. We've looked at mindfulness in that mindfulness, introduction to mindfulness course, and analytical meditation. They serve different functions and they combine to make an effective meditation practice. So we have a whole toolkit of possibilities to use according to what's appropriate in different situations. So let's just do an equanimity meditation here. We're going to start with altruistic motivation, and then we'll move to equanimity. So it's going to be a little longer. So just settle yourself down back into your stillness, this still place. So all the thoughts, all the movement of your mind are calm and still. And imagine that all around you are all the people of your life. And you're sitting in meditation and they are sitting in meditation with you. And imagine that to your left and right and behind you are all your friends and relatives and loved ones. All of those people you care about deeply and with whom you have positive, constructive relationships. Imagine all of them with you. And imagine seated in front of you and facing you are all of those people with whom you have some difficulty. Those people you find irritating. Those people for whom you feel anger. Perhaps they're angry at you. Whoever poses a problem for you, maybe they're cheating a friend of yours. Maybe they're lying to a friend of yours. Maybe they're pretending to a friend of yours. That makes you upset with them. All those individuals in your life that you would prefer to avoid in this meditation. We don't put them out of sight and therefore out of mind. We put them right up there in front facing us, eyeball to eyeball. In our life, we try and push them away. So imagine surrounding all of these people that you've already visualized are all the strangers in your life. And these are people you encounter at the mall, at the supermarket, the drivers in the other cars on the road, all of the people we run into day to day and passing that we don't really think about. They just are fleetingly in our life. We don't really pay attention to them. We don't know them. We certainly don't know their names, and mostly we ignore them. But these people are in our lives as well. So imagine them surrounding all the rest as far as the eye can see, as far as your mind can imagine, in all directions. And imagine that all of these surrounding sentient beings, friends, enemies, strangers, are all sitting here with you. They're all together. They're all reflecting and meditating with you right this moment. So let's just take a minute or two now to remember who all these people are that you've imagined and to feel their presence with you. Now, keeping in mind this visualization, the presence of all these people here with you, excuse me, just think like this. I am extremely lucky that my death did not occur last night while I was sleeping. Consequently, how incredibly wonderful and fortunate it is that today I'm still a human being. To be a human being is a state that's extremely rare, especially if we compare it to the animal kingdom, the infinite number of insects, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and so on, not to mention mammals and birds. To be born as a human being is an incredibly rare and precious opportunity. But not only do I have a human body, I also have leisure in my life. My life is very fortunate, and I am able to do more than simply subsist. And I have an inclination towards spiritual things in my life, towards expanding my inner world. Through meditation, I've begun to learn how to be a better person from the inside out. This too is extremely rare and precious. I have so many fortunate circumstances in my life, and I should not waste my life in any way. I should make my life as useful as possible for all living beings. The peace and happiness of others depends on me And my happiness is only received from the kindness and efforts of others. So if I dedicate my life to becoming as useful and beneficial as possible to other living beings, then this becomes the means to achieve happiness and success in my own life as well. This is what can give my life depth and meaning. From a Buddhist perspective, the purpose of our lives as human beings is to free all living beings from their sufferings and their causes of sufferings, as well as to lead them not only to temporary happiness, but everlasting, permanent happiness, as well as well-being, peace, satisfaction, and we call this enlightenment. As human beings, this is our responsibility. In fact, each one of us individually is responsible for the happiness of each and every living being that we meet. How can this be? Because our own actions are completely within our own control and depend totally on our own minds. Whether we have compassion and kindness that motivate our actions or not. So whether our actions are helpful or harmful to others depends solely on us. It doesn't depend on anyone else. So by generating compassion and kindness within our hearts and acting out of that, we immediately benefit other living beings. We cease to create harm. At the very least, we cease to create harm. And our actions serve to benefit. So this isn't necessarily a doctrine, really. It's basic human kindness. So if the purpose of my life is to work perfectly to benefit others, then in order to be able to do that, I must overcome all my own inner obstacles, my own negative and harmful states of mind. And the way to do that is through meditation practice. And this meditation we're going to engage in a minute. So there's many positive reasons we may have as well for sitting down and engaging in meditation. But if all of those positive reasons are kind of held within this greater motivation, wishing to benefit all living beings, and then all of them receive the power contained within that greater motivation, all of those more limited reasons will certainly come to pass. And at the same time, our larger altruistic motivation will come to pass as well, will transform our lives. So we make a strong affirmation to ourselves in order to be able to benefit all living beings, to release them from their sufferings, to help them achieve happiness in whatever way necessary, in order to become open and available to living beings in each moment, present in each moment, to overcome my own inner negativities and limitations. If I'm going to engage in this meditation. So make a strong determination in your own words and concentrate on it. Concentrate strongly so that it absorbs into the deeper levels of your heart and mind. Just think about that for a moment. So before we go into the equanimity meditation, does anyone have anything they'd like to share or say or ask? Or do you just want to keep going? Should we just keep going? Okay. All right. So again, let's revisit our motivation. So we can engage in this meditation in order to overcome our biased attitudes, our judgments, in order to develop an attitude of perfect equanimity and balance towards others. Think for a moment about our judgmental mind. We all have this mind. We often judge others on the basis of external appearances alone, or there's preconceived notions of what kinds of people look like. Our preconceptions about the type of people we want to associate with and the type of people we don't want to associate with. And maybe that's been influenced by our parents. I hear stories of young Black kids, they'll say, oh, when I passed by that person, they held their purse closer to their body. So consider how our judgmental mind has affected us in our life. Consider how the judgments of others may have affected us and how our judgments have affected other people. And through this meditation, we'll explore together the nature of this judging mind and explore as well how we might think about overcoming it. So again, bring to mind our friend, enemy, and our stranger. So this time, imagine in the space in front of you our friend, your loved one maybe. This is a person you consider to be your friend. And second, imagine someone you don't like. And third, imagine that someone you feel indifferent towards, someone who is a stranger to you. And keep these images of these three individuals in your mind throughout this meditation. Now focus on your friend. Allow all the good feelings you have for this person to arise within you very strongly. Feel how much you care for this person, how much they love you. Think about what you would do for them. Think about the things that you do for them. Think about, if they say they're going to come and stay, do you go and pick a rose for them in the garden, put it by their bed? Think about the ways in which you're happy to put your time aside in order to help and support them, comfort them. And think about everything they've done for you. And feel in your heart this strong conviction that this person is definitely and truly a friend, someone who is good to you and who fulfills your needs and wishes. And notice how you really want this person to be happy. So not only observe these feelings arising, identify with them and allow yourself to really feel them. And as you feel these feelings, also be aware of what it is you're feeling. So we'll meditate for about a minute. So notice how easy it is to feel the love in your heart and the exchange of this heartfelt love between the two of you. This energetic experience, this friendship, this love. Now we'll shift our focus to the enemy, the person you've imagined whom you don't like. Allow your feelings for that person to arise strongly and really feel them, while at the same time being aware and observing the feelings that you're having. And really think about this person, how that person annoys you or makes you angry, isn't kind to you, or doesn't satisfy your needs. And think about this person very carefully. And at the same time, look carefully at the feelings that you experience about this person. And feel strongly your conviction that somehow this person is definitely and truly not your friend. That this person is your enemy or something like your enemy. And be aware of the discomfort. And somehow make it okay. Now we're going to focus on the stranger, the last individual. Shift your attention to this person and look carefully at that person also. Very attentively your feelings about that person. You barely know this person. Perhaps you don't even know their name. And you neither like them nor dislike them. You have no particular thoughts one way or the other. And notice the feeling of indifference and disregard that arise within you, that the very clear label of stranger that seems to fit this person, not friend, not enemy. This could be a person in a class that you attend that you sort of see once in a while. Could be someone who you pass at the supermarket. Excuse me, maybe it's someone who works at the supermarket. Now we're going to think about the reasons for our labels. So take a moment to step back and look at all three individuals and your relationships with each of these three people. Each one has a label. Your loved one, your person you don't like, and that stranger. And now consider for a moment, are these labels that we have put on each of these individuals solely based on what they do or don't do for us at this given point in time? Might this be a possibility? Think about it for a moment. Then also consider that if as Buddhists believe, there is the possibility of past lives and rebirths, maybe. If this were the case, then it would follow that every single person we know, every single person on this planet, in fact, would have been our friend, our enemy, or our stranger countless times before in previous lives. Everyone would have been a friend at one time or another. Everyone would have been kind to us, helped us, taken care of us at one time or another in the past. And given this possibility, it might be reasonable to then at least consider being kind to our enemies now, because maybe they've been our friends before. Now refocus on your friend. Imagine a situation that would cause your friendship with that person to end. Maybe they turn against you, stab you in the back, harm you in some way, betray your trust. And feel the resentment and anger and hurt that you might feel in such a situation. And as you imagine this happening, does your attitude towards this person begin to change? Do you still feel the same warm, friendly feelings towards that person who betrayed you? Do you still wish them well? Want that person to be happy? Where is the person on whom the label friend? Where does that fit? Where is that friend now? And you see this in, people's relationships when they marry. Then after a while, it doesn't go well, and then they want a divorce. It gets can get really tricky, painful. Also remember that this person wasn't your friend before you were acquainted. You met this person who at the time was a stranger, and then you got to know them, and your good feelings arose and grew about this person over time. So this person went from being a stranger to being a friend. Recognize how easily this person could cease to be your friend now. So think to yourself that there's really no sound reason for feeling kind and loving only towards the friend of this moment. Relationships have changed in the past. They will continue to change. Today's friend can become tomorrow's stranger. Tomorrow you may not like them. Our attachment to our friends can be a little bit misplaced. Not our kindness, not our loving attitude, but our grasping, our attachment. Now refocus on your enemy and shift the spotlight to that person, and imagine a situation in which the two of you could be drawn together, could become close. Could be a common interest or simply a word of praise or kindness a slight shift in attitude. Look carefully at that person and look carefully as well as your feelings towards them, and really think about what might melt this icy rift that exists between you. And as you consider this, might it be that your feelings are already softening just a bit, becoming warmer? Perhaps we already know someone in our life who we regarded previously as an enemy, who has now become a colleague or friend. We can learn to feel warmly towards our enemies. It's happened before, will happen again. You often hear about this with siblings. You know, they fight when they're kids, hate each other when they're kids. When they get older, they just fall in love with each other. I mean, as buddies. So we have this attachment to the label enemy, and it's misplaced. It's a concept in our minds. And why is it that we hold so strongly to the concepts and labels we put on others, whether friend or enemy or stranger, when all of these relationships are so fragile, they're so changeable? And now we can refocus on the stranger. Bring that person to mind and imagine how one act of kindness from this person could immediately turn them into a friend, or how one act of cruelty or anger would immediately turn that person into an enemy. Sometimes for someone to shift from being a stranger into a friend, all it takes is learning their name and shaking their hand. And sometimes all it takes to turn a person into an enemy is a kind of a dirty look, a mean comment. So there's no definite inherent stranger. Imagine before you there's really no sound reason for the feelings of indifference and disregard that we hold on to. The other two individuals, our present friend and our present enemy, were once both strangers to us. This stranger could become a friend or an enemy ever so easily. So let's contemplate the fragile impermanence of our relationships. So the people we call friends are not inherently friends. And the people we call enemies are not inherently enemies. The people we call strangers are also not inherently strangers. And maintaining your awareness of these three people imagine in front of you, think about the fragile impermanence of these relationships. It's only our misconceived belief in the concreteness of these labels that keeps our mind from understanding the possibility of change and fluidity in our relationships. One way to do this is, one of the reasons for this is to, it's not so that you sort of start imagining negative things about your best friend, but say something does happen between you, then you're not so devastated. It's not that you don't care, but it's that it won't harm you too much because you understand things are impermanent and it could change again as well. So these three individuals, the friend, the enemy, and the stranger, They all want happiness just as much as you. In this respect, we are all equal. Also, everyone is equal in having the potential to develop their minds to the fullest extent to Buddhahood. And the differences that we see in people are just superficial, based on our own narrow, self-centered view. We tend to see people through the filter of what we want or what we don't want, through the filter of what we like or what we don't like. And we don't tend to accept people just as they are. And by seeing them and accepting them just as they are, we begin to realize that actually everyone is equal in deserving our care and compassion, and not just our friends. So to bring this meditation to a close, contemplate all living beings want happiness, whether they are our friend, our enemy, or our stranger. All living beings have infinite potential to achieve ultimate clarity and compassion, whether our friends, whether they're our enemies or our strangers. We generally impute the labels of friend, enemy, or stranger simply as a result of our own self-centered needs or judgments. In fact, our relationships with others are constantly changing. They're fluid and impermanent. Enemies become friends, friends become enemies, strangers become friends or enemies, and back again, all over again. But the bottom line is that all of these differences that we see are just on the surface, and that at the deepest level, in every being, every person we meet deserves equally our care, our compassion, and our friendship. So let's contemplate this for just a couple of minutes. Everyone just relax. So again, I want to ask if anyone has any questions. How was that meditation for you? Like, did it or anything in your mind arise? Can be a little bit intense. And it really doesn't mean that you have to start thinking, oh my God, my best friend's going to turn on me any minute now. It's not like that. It's just to be aware that if things change, it's just the nature of impermanence. And it also doesn't mean you need to invite this person who's really harmed you home for dinner. And often the way of all this, everything they're talking about, opening your heart, thinking kindly, being compassionate, it's not about turning yourself into a doormat and allowing everybody to walk all over you. Because anger actually is harmful emotionally and physically. So if you're able to control your anger and get on top of it, you're harming yourself less. So it's not, I mean, it talks in the text all about, compassion, kindness for other people, but actually we are having to start with ourselves. Anyway, does anyone have anything to say about that? We have like 8 minutes before the end, and I still had a bunch of stuff I wanted to do, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed the meditations. So, in this course, I'm just wondering, did you get an opportunity to notice the ways in which you make judgments about things or people? Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think it's such a good example in this country because we have such a diverse community here. And they talk a lot about white privilege. And, they have this, they've had to develop a system in universities of giving people who are like Chinese, Asian, colored, somehow Hispanic, whatever, an opportunity for entrance into a university because of their color or because of their race. What's it called? Affirmative action. And it just seems to me that, gosh, it's a shame that we have to have that in a way. And then, how we are always, we just assume that every single person who's Asian is good at mathematics. Every single person that's Indian is good at spelling because they're always winning those spelling bee contests. It's so interesting. It's just fascinating to me how the mind works. And you can see how much it depends on your culture and how you grew up. Mary, do you have a question?
No, it just was a comment about the judgment. It came up during the meditation. Last week, when I was walking in the neighborhood where I'm living now, I'm in Polish Village, which is a ethnic neighborhood in Cleveland. And it broke my heart listening to this man. He knew my aunt, but he was telling me that he came from Poland about 10 years ago and English is his second language. And his wife, he asked me if I would teach his wife English. And he was telling me that someone else on the street called him a dumb Polak. And he said, and threw beer cans in his yard and then broke his fence.
Oh.
That man, he's like 65 years old. And he told me, he said he thought he was going to die because every night he cried.
Oh.
That person moved. But I've been thinking about it all week. It came up for me in the meditation.
Because, we don't know how our actions are going to land on somebody else's heart and mind. And, very often it's just a kind word to a teenager who is doing a summer job in a local store, packing your stuff, can make all the difference to their day. It's like you never know what's going on for anyone at any particular moment. Sometimes even our best friends, we just don't know. So when you're a little bit kind of maybe insensitive to people perhaps, or not quite appreciating maybe what they're going through or what it is they need, maybe they don't have to tell you everything. It's always good to be so aware of how our words are landing. And I think this is where, meditation can help us, this kind of deep internal reflection, and particularly not beating ourselves up, though. We have to be super careful of that because it's something that we're so fond of doing here in the West. We just love to beat ourselves up. But I'm really sorry we have 3 minutes to the end, and I wanted to look a little bit at a daily practice. Many of you here are already engaged in a daily practice of meditation because you're coming along to the Vajrasattva and you're coming to the morning meditations. And in terms of your own, and I also wanted to quickly review this course, but I think we're sort of almost out of time. But, during this course, which has been going since, when did we say, April, something. Anyway, we learned how to sit, which is what we do every day anyway in our meditations. We learned how to focus the mind. We've done some visualization meditation. We've done some concentration. We've done mindfulness, and we have just done an analytical meditation. So one of the things about the analytical meditations is that you can analyze anything. You can perhaps, like Mary was just talking, you can sit down and analyze in your heart her reactions in her relationship and the impact of how judgment is on this Polish man who was a stranger but now seems to be a friend, and what a big difference it would have made for him when he didn't know you to see you walking down the street and smiling at him, because you never know, that person who was chucking cans into his backyard might have been doing it just 5 seconds before you came. So it's really interesting. You can totally make somebody's day by just smiling and saying hello. Yeah. Anyway, anything else, anyone, before we close? We have a minute. Hi, Hin.
Oh, Venerable, please forgive me for saying this. I just want to make a request. I want to see you drink more water, Venerable. It's the weather getting so hot, and it's an hour and a half, and I don't see.
Okay, here I have here. I'll take a drink of water. Here we are. On my home. And now I'm going to go off and have some dinner before Vajrasattva. Thank you, Hin. So Hin's everybody's mother. How many children do you have, Hin?
I have 3.
You have 3.
Yeah, but I had radiation on my jaw.
Yeah.
And it caused so that's why I have, it's so dry. Yeah, that
You have to drink all the time.
yes. And sometimes when I drink it, I notice you don't drink it, and I feel bad. I thought,
Oh, see, because I've just been, I forgot that I needed to have a drink, but I've just been, teachers tend to sort of recommend that you don't drink during a practice. But, in those moments where we have discussions or talks or stop to chat, it's good to take a sip of water. And particularly if you're not very well, so you have stuff going on, right? So it's important that you drink when you need to. So please don't just discipline yourself to not drink just because no one else is doing it. I give you full permission to drink when you need to. And if you feel embarrassed, just turn your camera off. You can do that. That's the beauty of Zoom. Just loving Zoom more and more. Get some privacy, Oh, I don't want you looking at me eating my sandwich. Anyway, you guys, I'm so sorry. We have to close now. I hope you enjoyed this 2 sessions of session 5. And maybe I can continue it on a bit through. We have next weekend, I think it's next weekend, the 22nd, we have a whole day workshop. So it'll be about, that's 1.5 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. So it's going to be mainly question and answer, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do for 3.5 hours. So I'm sure we'll think of something, but I'd like to, we can do some questions. People have lots of questions about Vajrasattva. We can do Vajrasattva practice, and we can do some of these other practices as well, as if you wish. But anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mary, for hosting, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Karen and Shayla and Hin, Mary and Susan and Katiana. Katiana, are you in America?
Yes, I'm in Albuquerque.
Oh, you're in Albuquerque. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see some of you in about half an hour. Okay, I'm going to run off now. Thanks, everyone. Lots of love. See you soon.
Thank you, Venerable.
Bye.